I'm Tony Streeter, and I'm on the Board of Trustees here at Springfield, Vermont. Welcome, one and all, to our celebration today. We're together now because of our loving community that listens and cares for one another. And we deeply appreciate each and every one of you for your wisdom and participation here. And thank you all for coming today. And please stay for our coffee hour after the service. Thank you.
Amen. 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 Amen.
We have opening words today that Tina and I will read responsively. When love is felt or fear is known,
when holidays and holy days and such times come,
when anniversaries arrive by calendar or consciousness,
when seasons come or as seasons do, old and known, but somehow new,
when lives are born or people die,
when something sacred's sensed in soil or sky,
mark the time.
Respond with thought or prayer or smile or grief.
Let nothing living slip between the fingers of the mind.
For all of these are holy things we will not, cannot find again.
Thank you for sharing that reading with us as we start our service of celebrations. Yay.
Now, please sing along with us our opening song.
Let all the beauty we have known illuminate our hearts and minds. Rejoice in wonders daily shown, in faith and joy and love that binds. We celebrate with singing hearts the loveliness of sky and earth, the inspiration of the arts, the miracle of every birth. Life's music and its poetry surround and bless us through our days. For these we sing in harmony.
we're going to have a wonderful story that Julaine has found for us. It's I'm in Charge of Celebrations, and it's written by Bird Baylor, and it's illustrated by Peter Parnell. I'm in Charge of Celebrations. Sometimes people ask me, aren't you lonely out there with just desert around you? I guess they mean the bare grass and the yuccas and the cactus and the rocks. I guess they mean the deep ravines and the hawk nests and the cliffs and the coyote trails that wind across the hills. Lonely? I can't help laughing when they ask me that. I always look at them, surprised, and I say, how could I be lonely? I'm the one in charge of celebrations. Sometimes they don't believe me, but it's true, I am. I put myself in charge. I choose my own. Last year, I gave myself 108 celebrations, besides the ones that they closed school for. I cannot get by with only a few. Friend, I'll tell you how it works. I keep a notebook and I write the date, and then I write about the celebration. I'm very choosy over what goes in that book. It has to be something I plan to remember the rest of my life. You can tell what's worth the celebration because your heart will pound and you'll feel like you're standing on top of a mountain, and you'll catch your breath like you were breathing some new kind of air. Otherwise, I count it just an average day. I told you I was choosy. Friend, I wish you'd been there for Dust Devil Day. But since you weren't, I'll tell you how it got to be my first real celebration. You can call them whirlwinds if you want to. Me, I think Dust Devils has a better sound. Well, anyway, I always stop to watch them. Here, everyone does. You know how they come from far away, moving up from the flats, swirling and swaying and falling and turning, picking up sticks and sand and feathers and dry tumbleweed. Well, last March 11th, we were all going somewhere. I was in the back of a pickup truck when the Dust Devils started to gather. You could see they were giants. You'd swear they were calling their friends to come too. And they came, dancing in time to their own windy music. We all started counting. We all started looking for more. They stopped that truck, and we turned around and around watching them all. There were 7. At a time like that, something goes kind of crazy in you. You have to run to meet them, yelling all the way. You have to whirl around like you were one of them, and you can't stop until you're falling down. And then all day you think how lucky you were to be there. Some of my best celebrations are sudden surprises like that. If you weren't outside at that exact moment, you'd miss them. And I spend a lot of time outside by myself looking around. Once I saw a triple rainbow that ended in a canyon where I'd been the day before. I was halfway up a hill, standing in a drizzle of rain. It was almost dark, but I wouldn't go in because of the rainbows, of course. And there at the top of the hill, a jackrabbit was standing up on its hind legs, perfectly still, looking straight at that same triple rainbow. I may be the only person in the world who's seen a rabbit standing in the mist, quietly watching 3 rainbows. That's worth a celebration anytime. I wrote it down, and I drew the hill and the rabbit and the rainbows and me. Now, August 9th, is Rainbow Celebration Day. I have Green Cloud Day too. Ask anybody, and they'll tell you clouds aren't green. But late one winter afternoon, I saw this huge green cloud. It was not bluish green or grayish green or something else. This cloud was green, green as a jungle parrot. And the strange thing was that it began to take a parrot's shape. First the wings, then the head and beak. High in the winter sky, that green bird flew. It didn't last more than a minute. You know how fast a cloud can change. But I still remember how it looked. So I celebrate green clouds on February 6th. At times like that, I always think, What if I'd missed it? What if I'd been in the house? Or what if I hadn't looked up when I did? You can see I'm very lucky about things like that. And I was lucky on Coyote Day because out of all time, it had to be one moment only that a certain coyote and I could meet, and we did. Friend, you should have been there too. I was following deer tracks, taking my time, bending down as I walked, kind of humming. I hum a lot when I'm alone. I looked up in time to see a young coyote trotting through the brush. She crossed in front of me. It was a windy day, and she was going east. In that easy, silent way coyotes move, she pushed into the wind. I stood there hardly breathing, wishing I could move that way. I was surprised to see her stop and turn and look at me. She seemed to think I was just another creature following another rocky trail. That's true, of course, I am. She didn't hurry. She wasn't afraid. I saw her eyes and she saw mine. That look held us together. Because of that, I never will feel quite the same again. So on September 28th, I celebrate Coyote Day. Here's what I do. I walk the trail I walked that day, and I hum softly as I go. Finally, I unwrap the feast I brought for her. Last time it was 3 apples and some pumpkin seeds, and an ear of corn, and some big, soft, homemade ginger cookies. The next day, I happened to pass that way again. Coyote tracks went all around the rock where the food had been, and the food was gone. Next year, I'll make it even better. I'll bring an extra feast and eat there too. Another one of my greatest celebrations is called the Time of Falling Stars. It lasts almost a week in the middle of August, and I wait all year for those hot summer nights when the skies go wild. You can call them meteor showers if you want to. Me, I like to say they're falling stars. All that week I sleep outside. I give my full attention to the sky. And every time a streak of light goes shooting through the darkness, I feel my heart shoot out of me. One night I saw a fireball that left a long red blazing trail across the sky. After it was gone, I stood there looking up, not quite believing what I'd seen. The strange thing was, I met a man who told me had seen it too while he was lying by a campfire 500 miles away. He said he did not sleep again that night. Suddenly, it seemed that we two spoke a language no one else could understand. Every August of my life, I'll think of that. Friend, I've saved my New Year's celebration until last. Mine is a little different from the one most people have. It comes in spring. To tell the truth, I never did feel like my New Year started on January 1st. To me, that's just another winter day. I let my New Year begin when winter ends and the morning light comes earlier, the way it should. That's when I feel like starting new. I wait until the white-winged doves are back from Mexico and wildflowers cover the hills and my favorite cactus blooms. It always makes me think I ought to bloom myself. And that's when I start to plan my New Year's celebration. I finally choose a day that is exactly right. Even the air has to be perfect, and the dirt has to feel good and warm on bare feet. Usually it's a Saturday around the end of April. I have a drum that I beat to signal that day, and I go wandering off, following all of my favorite trails to all of the places I like. I check how everything is doing. I spend the day admiring things. If the old desert tortoise I know from last year is on our strolling around, I'll go his direction for a while. I celebrate with horned toads and ravens and lizards and quail. And friend, it's not a bad party. Walking back home, kind of humming, Sometimes I think about those people who ask me if I'm lonely here, and I have to laugh out loud. Thank you. Okay, let's see what's next. Now we have an affirmation from Sharon. Please mute and say this along.
Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve the needs of all beings, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with the source of our being. Thank you for sharing that with us. And now we have a reading with Anne Marie.
Back again. Celebrations. Since the earliest of times, when human beings came together in community, in tribes, even in clans, they found ways to celebrate. Birth, life, work, harvest, the hunt, the seasons, memorials, sunrise, unions, partings, earth, moon, water. So many reasons and so many ways to celebrate. Throughout the world, throughout time, we've been celebrating. Why do we do it? Why do we do it? Well, it's a way to honor the present. You know what's happening right now in your life, right now in our lives. We're here together celebrating. It feeds our basic human needs for fellowship and love and recognition and potency. Celebration is a way to honor our accomplishments and our achievements and what we're grateful for. When we honor something with celebration, we magnify that. We magnify that accomplishment, that achievement, our gratitude for what it is we're witnessing. And what we focus on expands. We know this. So notice in your days what you celebrate. Recognize your life. Honor your completions. It's emotional nourishment. When we feel good, we are energized. And there is momentum to proceed, to create, to continue. So notice the moments of your life. Savor the good stuff. Celebrate. Activate the spirit. Enjoy the joy. And now we will have a chant. So those at home can mute yourselves and chant Alhamdulillah, which means Alleluia.
Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, 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 Alhamdulillah,
join me in a moment of silence. And now we're going to have some reflections from our members and friends. And Tony Streeter is going to start us off. And hand it over to you, Tony.
These are photographs that I took in my youth when I was in Central America, in Guatemala and Mexico. This is a celebration of Good Friday in a little village called San Antonio Cuista. And these are some of the people that were participating there. This is another ceremony. This is in San Antonio, but this is in Mexico. And this is the Feast of Our Lord of the Holy Death. Most of the celebrations they have there are after the names of the towns or villages that they're in. This is part of that same ceremony. This was a really big one. They had fighting bulls, fireworks. This is continuation. As you can see, there's so much participation. The whole village participates in these ceremonies, and it's really quite a spectacle. And it's such a privilege for me. Oh, this was my favorite. This was in San Juan de Llanito, and the Feast of Saint John the Baptist. And I could tell you a lot about that. We stayed up all night cooking. This is another ceremony, Our Lady of Guadalupe, and well, anyways, here's some more of the pictures of San Antonio Vista. It's a very reverent time. They had music playing in all of these, and as you can see, all the people in the town. This was the first mission I was at in Guatemala. It was way up in the mountains. Look at all the people there celebrating. The participation. Talk about participation. Amazing, isn't it? I could tell you more about the ceremonies, but I'm sure there's other things you want to hear about.
Thank you, Tony. So now I think we're going to hear from Deb. Deb has some celebration stories to share.
My favorite holiday is Mardi Gras. And this came about because when I was in Europe as a college student, I was in Switzerland, and this end of a parade went by with all these people with costumes and, musical instruments, and it just kind of went by, and I'm like, well, that was cool. What was that? So eventually I found out. The next year I was in Germany over the winter, and I was with a group of students from college, and most of the group were sophomores who wanted to bring frat row with them to Germany. And they were constantly disrupting the town and partying. And a few other people and me were like, no, you don't go to Germany to bring Dartmouth to Germany. You go to Germany to learn about Germany and Germans and what they do. So we were kind of the stick in the mud of the group. But there came a holiday called Fasching. And Fasching really means it just means carnival. So it's Mardi Gras in our country, in Louisiana, and in Brazil and other places. Well, in Germany it's called the Fasching. And my German family was going away on holiday, and they left me a bottle of wine. And this was like a big deal because, I didn't drink much of, I had, occasional beers or something, but I didn't drink lots while I was there. And anyways, a group of us students went downtown and had a big party. There was a huge parade. They have clubs for the celebrations, and there are different groups that have various colors for carnival and various celebrations. And it was a really big deal, and the streets were crowded. You couldn't move. You couldn't get in anywhere to use the bathroom. I mean, it was really crazy. And some of the guys in my group said, "Oh, well, you guys aren't so bad after all. You can party too," and blah, 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 because we were just doing what the Germans were doing. We were following exactly. And we had a huge celebration. It was tons of fun. And then after 4 days of Fasching, you just went back to normal life. But you had this huge party. It was just great. And so every day, every year, my favorite holiday has been Mardi Gras or Fasching. And when I worked at various places, I would get people to dress up in the colors of Fasching, which are purple, green, and gold, the same as in Mardi Gras in New Orleans. And also just we used to have I had a friend who brought back from New Orleans some of the masks with the feathers on them and the colors, and go around the office and kind of, interact with people and tease them and stuff like that. And different places I worked, we'd have different Mardi Gras parties. So it's just carried on to this day that's been my favorite celebration. That's it.
So, some of you know that I have 4 children, and when I moved here in the mid-1980s, they were in grade school and one in middle school. And my parents lived here. It was really the reason we moved here. And so they loved being grandparents to these children. And they were very creative people. My mother was an artist and loved to, make things. And my father was a punster and loved to celebrate. And so it was a year or so after we'd moved here. On Labor Day, my dad came up with an idea, and my mom helped implement it with what? Pieces of cardboard and markers, colored markers, and they decided that we should come over and have a Labor Day parade. So my dad got out this box that had his dad's silk top hat, quite a tall black hat. And we made up signs on cardboard to celebrate labor. So things like "Workers of the World Unite," and "Go Labor," and "I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night." And so all of us, my 4 kids and me and my folks, had signs. It was really only my dad with the big top hat, but he led the procession. And we went one at a time. It's 100 yards driveway. So we walked from the house all the way up the driveway to the road, singing labor songs, and all the way back down, and all of the kids, going yay and celebrating. And we came back down, and that was it. We made it up. It was a lot of fun. We never did it again. But we had a lot of fun. So that's my story.
I think I have the next story if I'm looking at my list properly.
Okay.
And our celebration in our family is not a typical celebration where, a certain day like Christmas or Labor Day or Memorial Day or anything like that. We made up a holiday when my son was kind of a young teen, and he, was getting the thick hair on his upper lip, and we started talking about shaving. And we'd also had some interesting conversations about how typically in American society, unless you're Jewish, there's no kind of rite of manhood kind of ceremony. So, that where you go from being a child to being a young man. So we made up a day, and we called it Shaving Day. And Shaving Day is the first Saturday after Valentine's Day, just in case you ever want to celebrate Shaving Day with somebody. And what we did is we had cards and we had presents. We got Cam cards and we got him presents, and we had a special Shaving Day feast. And the feast was things that looked like shaving cream. So we had mashed potatoes, and the cheese that comes in a can that people like squirt on crackers. That's kind of gross. We call that shaving cheese. And we had that for dinner. And we had a big dinner that was all kind of mushy gushy shaving stuff, shaving cream kind of stuff. And then afterwards, and this is when my niece and her husband and their two daughters lived with us. So we had this big celebration. Then after dinner, the guys went upstairs to the bathroom and they drummed, and Cam shaved for the first time. And then we came downstairs. They came downstairs and we had dessert, which of course had lots of whipped cream on it. And my niece's husband said, I didn't get anything like this when I was growing up. When I became a young man, we didn't get to celebrate anything like this. This is so cool. And Cam laughed so hard, he literally fell off his chair. So that is Shaving Day, and I highly recommend it as a way to celebrate young manhood.
Thank you for sharing. And do we have time for some shares from the Zoom room or from the sanctuary? Yeah, let's have a few shares. If somebody would like to, just raise your hand. Or I can't. Okay, Pat.
Yeah, today I am celebrating my elder sister's birthday. This is a photo of her. She was born in 1943 and passed away in 2016. She made this. She was very crafty, and this is a picture of us together. It was, I think, her birthday when she was still with us. So it's a pretty special day for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. I can't see the sanctuary, so if someone's there, maybe Sharon, you could say if someone wants to talk from the sanctuary.
Nobody here. We have 5 of us here in the sanctuary, but no one is ready to share.
Okay. Anyone from the Zoom room want to share? Lynn, okay.
Celebration this year, but I do know, I can tell you that when I'm at work, I stand at the back of the store. My cheese case goes the length of this little alcove, and almost everyone who comes in the store walks by. And sometimes they catch me doing things like just taking a breath or shaking it out. And sometimes something works out just the way I want it to. And I go, yes. And they say, what are you celebrating? I say, hey, you got to celebrate the little things, right? And they kind of laugh and we get a chuckle. So I celebrate the little things because why wait for a special day?
Thank you, Lynn. That's very true. So many reasons to celebrate. I can't see anybody else's hand.
Tony has more to say.
Tony. Yeah, I can't see everyone at once. So.
Yeah, today is going to be a new celebration. You gave me a great idea, Anne Marie, when you did your reading today. Today, first time, John and I were up like at 4:00 in the morning, and we saw the sky, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. It's just, you just have to see it. And then at 5:00, we were still out on the porch. We were listening to the birds, and a black fox appeared. I'd never seen a black fox before, and it stayed and it sat down near where the blueberry bushes were and watched us for a long time. And then finally it moved on. It went down further towards the garden. But I got a picture of it, so if you want to see it on Facebook, it's on there. But I think I'm going to start celebrating this as Black Fox Day. And I hope it's not a bad omen, because I've been reading about black foxes, and it's kind of, it can be a bad luck thing. So I'm hoping that it also has other attributes that are good too, for opportunities and everything. It is a rare occasion to see them. So I just had to share that with you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So I don't see any other hands. Does anybody else see hands?
I have a brief thing to say. This is Sharon in the sanctuary. And let's see. So whenever I have something special to celebrate, I like to do it very often with a glass of wine and toasting, to acknowledge whatever small or large event. It doesn't have to be with wine, it can be water. But when you're with someone and you can clink glasses and say, cheers to this and cheers to that, and it feels like that small celebratory thing that makes a difference. That thing is acknowledged. And so I love to cheers. In fact, one time many years ago in my old house in Charlestown, with a lot of people around the table and enjoying a good meal, I think it was probably spaghetti with plenty of good red wine. We were cheering so much that I got a little bit enthusiastic and smashed my glass against somebody else's. But it was all in fun. We had a good time. No harm done. No glass in the food. But I certainly enjoyed that one. That's it. Cheers. Cheers. To life.
I'm glad to hear that, because I love doing toast too. In fact, sometimes they have to tell me to stop.
I'll just tell you a real funny story. It's about 2 minutes. When Rosaline, my oldest, was about 3 years old, we would sit down to dinner and everyone would hold up whatever they had, and we would just look in each other's eyes around the table and do cheers. And one day, when she and I were alone, we did this like at lunchtime, and I put my cup up and I said, cheers. And she puts her cup up and she says, tables. So it just had to crack me up. Lynn, you have another one?
Yeah, real quick. Speaking of toasting, I was at a New Year's Eve bonfire one time, and we were all huge bonfire, and in the snow there were bottles of sparkling grape juice stuck around the bonfire. And I met this woman who I haven't seen since and never knew before, but we just hit it off and we chatted and we had so much fun. And it was a really cold night, so nobody wanted to leave the bonfire, but there were people milling and going to a basketball hoop and going inside. And we found a bottle. We looked at it and said, this isn't grape juice, this is wine. So we started sipping from it and taking turns, and we toasted the bonfire. And we toasted the stars, and we toasted all the people at the bonfire. Then we toasted Orion, and we thought we could toast each star and never run out. And someone finally called across the bonfire, "What are you two sipping over there?" So we got tipsier and tipsier. We said, "Nothing." It was great fun. She was awesome. I wish I kept in touch with her. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. So now
And
we're
we have another thing from Dick. Dick wants to share. Come on up, Dick.
I've thought of two things. One is that Stephanie and I have a joint checking account, and when we reconcile the statement and happen to get everything to come out right, we celebrate with a couple little drinks of homemade fruit cordial. This only happens a few times a year. And the other thing I came up with, of course, is that we all here had a winter solstice and a spring equinox bonfire right out in the parking lot.
Yes. Lots of reasons to celebrate. Yay.
yeah. So now we're going to have a song from Julaine. Let it be a dance. And if you have any shakers, you shake them on up, or drums. And put yourself on mute if you're in the Zoom room. And here we go.
And feel free to get up and dance if you'd like to.
Let it be a dance with you. May I have this dance with you. Through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let the dancing song be heard. Let the music say the word. And fill the sky with sailing birds. Let it be a dance, let it be a dance, let it be a dance. Learning all the words to be, feel the rhythm fill the beat, to reap the harvest of the sea. Let it be a dance, everybody turn and sing. Everybody burns to bed, and like a willow in the wind. Let it be a dance, let it be a dance, let it be a dance. A child is born in the old side, a time for joy, time to cry. Take it as it passes by. Let it be a dance. Morning star comes out at night. Without the dark there is no light. If nothing's wrong and nothing's right, let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Share the laughter, bear the pain, and round we go again. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance with you. May I have this dance with you. Through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance.
Okay. Each day, oh, I'm all fogged up here. Each day holds a surprise.
but only if we expect it can we see, hear, or feel it when it comes to us. Let's not be afraid to receive each day's surprise, whether it comes to us as sorrow or as joy. It will open a new place in our hearts, a place where we can welcome new friends and celebrate more fully our shared humanity. Henri Nguyen.
Thank you, Tina, for those closing words. Hold on. We're working on it.